Afternoon all. I said I'd get round to live steam testing the Mark II speed control, which we are just about to do. See, the safety valve isn't quite as tight as it should be. That's all the valve, the seal has gone a bit now. There we are. The seal might have gone. Does look a little dry, that one. So the SE2A anyway, we are here and we are almost ready. I've used hot water, as is the norm really when I've got electricity to hand. Everything's oiled up. There is one thing different before we start, and that is, if you can't see it now, I'll show you a bit more close up. I've put a small spring clip and washer on the operating lever itself. Other than that, the lever does float on that axle there, which is connected via the brass connector there. Oh, we're lovely and ready. Anyway, I'll do more on that later. We'll throw it into full forward or reverse gear and we'll see what happens. Start it on our own. I've had to cobble a bit of a base plate together out of Meccano. I've got no wood, but we'll go on to that a bit later. Let's see how it's very smooth in operation. It has been lubed, of course. I've used 1540, I think it is, on the pivots of this and the flywheel. Steam on the little end of the cylinder, steam oil on the little end of the cylinder. That works really smoothly and is just tight enough to hold position. All you got to do is adjust the lock nuts. Now, on this version, I have inside there's a lock nut there, and lock nut here. Well, you can get rid of that one. You don't need it really, because these two will hold it together. You do need a little bit of play here to help clear the trunnion, or the bent trunnion there. Otherwise, the square nut will catch slightly. If you're using hexagonal nuts, then you probably won't get that. A little bit smaller. But the corners are cut off basically. So there we go, it seems to be working alright. Well, a bit too much by the looks of it. I was saying earlier, I've said on the other one, when it's set up like this, start it in full speed and back off. It's a lot easier that way. I've noticed something I haven't done. I haven't tightened the lock nut up there. That's just acting as a stop for the forward control movement. Now, I'm saying on this lever I've got the spring clip and the washer. Other than that, this lever floats on that axle there, which is the 1-inch axle rod. Now, on this model, or this specific one, that lever is slightly bent over to the left, which is one reason, well, two reasons that's pretty good actually. The 5 holes here, which is 2.5 inch, don't line up exactly in height with the lever, even when it's in the off position. But fortunately, because of the play attained in the connector on the threads, means it can actually angle that way, won't make any difference. But what I did notice in testing it before firing, when I was bringing it back this way, it seemed to get stuck a little bit, like a little bit of a notch. So a little bit of messing around, and what I did, I put the spring clip on with a washer just to line it up a little bit better. But really, you need that play there because of the angle. It may be that others are not bent as much, or maybe even bent more. If it is very bent, just add a longer rod there and you should be able to get away with it. Right, we'll go back the other way. Stopped. And we'll go full reverse. Very nice one of this SE2A. Last used on some of the dynamo tests. I haven't used it since. Running on Meccano. Well, the burner was a bit of a struggle to get inside. It wouldn't fit in the holder probably. A bit tight. But you can see it hasn't been used that much. too much. See if I can get it to start. Don't like to start when there's little steam. It is easier to go full first and then back off. While I'm at it, I'll just tighten up that lock nut if I can without burning myself. To do the adjustment, just play. You could leave it until it's under steam. I've noticed that when I go full the other way, it does seem to slow down again, which would suggest that it's going a bit further that way than the other way. You'd think it'd have cut off, gone flat out and no more by then, and that wouldn't move any further. But at worst, it would probably mean just having one washer there. So there we go, we'll just do that, hopefully. Running quite nicely, very smooth, and quite a result. A bit neater than the other one, but I still like the other one, the way it works. It just works well. This works well, probably even better, smoother. As I've mentioned, if you just use this flange plate here on its own, it flexes too much. You'll have to put a support on this side. I did try on that side, first of all, awkward to get it to line up with a strip, and that strip blocked the view of the cylinder, which I think is still nice to see. Once I'd added this one here, which was very fiddly to do on this side, this 5-hole, 2.5 inch long strip, I removed this one and found that it was rock steady. So it is a little bit fiddly to do underneath, and what I would do, I'd build, if I do it again, build this here, the double angle bracket underneath, put that on, put this together, the bent trunnion, and if you're using one of these square plates, this square plate and its support, put that together and this strip all together loosely first. Then at least you'll will not have the trouble of trying to get your fingers in to try and hold nuts in place to get them on the thread. At least they're on the thread. Then put it on, line it up, get it as straight as possible. Although with this setup with the float and the able to constantly move in an anti-clockwise, clockwise direction there, not that it moves that much, but it would be able to because obviously it's spinning. Essentially the rod is turning through that, so there is quite a bit of leeway. Then put your rod in, again put that rod in and put the lock nuts on and get close to the adjustment you want, not too loose, not too tight, before you actually fix everything down, because access is pretty hard to do. Although you can do it this end, as I said before, you don't need one that end anymore. You can do it this end with a lock nut, just about. If needs be, what you might have to do to make it easier, I use the square nuts. Again, if you use the hexagon ones, you're probably better off with a bit more space. If needs be, get an old spanner that's not too clever, but it's still decent enough to use, and grind down the sides here to give you more room to turn the spanner. Just cut the curved section off there, just flatten it out a little bit. So there we go. I hope we've got enough. I think we've got enough water and mess left for a little test I'm going to do, which I'll show you very shortly. And here's that test. I've misplaced the drive band I was actually using. I hope this one's alright. It's a test of the blacksmith, where the speed control and the power of the engine is hopefully enough to make that move without going like the clappers and falling apart. So we'll try. Doesn't matter which way we go with it. Just going to go full one way, and we're not having any joy. Hang on. There we go. The band's slipping. Damn it. Let's try the other one. I'll just have enough in the band. I don't know where to put it. I've got several of them. I'll see. Oh, there we go. Try and get a bit slower. What you could do in this simple fashion is raise the base of the blacksmith up and put a 3-inch pulley on there. Looks ugly, yes, but simple to do without resorting to gearing. I must find that, that's as close as I can get it. I must find the other belt, although this one seems to be working. I don't know where I've put it, but as you've probably seen by now, I've been messing with the ploughing engine. Whistle's not fantastic, and in fact I think we're running low on that. But at least it's not falling apart. And that blacksmith, an adaptation of the 1954 O set or 0 set model, which was strung at a string pull from the arm and you pulled it. That works quite well considering we're using a slotted hole for a pivot there, which probably helps with the allowing a bit of extra movement regarding the crank and the force up and down. I see the as expected the crank rod acting as the piece of metal that he's forging moves around a bit as expected, really. The original model, if you left it as it was, both the hammer and this were so straight that it wouldn't rest on this anvil made out of a 1-inch pulley. Wouldn't rest at all, it was nowhere near, it was far too straight. So I moved the anvil over, fitted it loose, quite loose here with these spring clips. Again, keep it to most basic parts if at all possible. Giving me play there, but of course that makes it move around a bit. And on the arm I fitted a collar, and then loosely again with the spring clips at the hand, fitting the collar and screwing it in, pulled it over at an angle. It is hoped that other Meccano simple tools and even some bellows, although they won't work because they'll be full of holes, will operate, make a little blacksmith shop if you like, to be powered by probably this one. There we are, we're almost out of meths. So quite pleased with that, even though the belt slips a little bit. Yeah, it is a bit lanky. So must find a decent supply of long belts, although we'll fit pulley shafts and stuff to spread out the load to different machines and or model machines. So there you go folks, quite pleased with that.